A. Enter at the working walk. Proceed down center line to X without halting. X to H, continue working walk along diagonal. H to C, continue working walk to C. After C, turn right on quarter line. Leg yield left to the rail between B and F. Between B and F, circle right 20 meters. Continue working walk to K. KXM, change rein, lengthening the horse's stride and allowing the horse to stretch forward and down. M to C, working walk. Turn left on the quarter line. Leg yield right to the rail between E and K. Between E and K, circle left 20 meters. Continue working walk to A. A through C, 3-loop serpentine. HXF, change rein, lengthening the horse's stride and allowing the horse to stretch forward and down. F to K, working walk. K to X, proceed along diagonal to X. X, turn down center line. Between X and G, halt and salute. Dismount, stand quietly for a moment. You may reward your horse. Take the reins over the horse's head, run up the stirrups, and leave the arena, leading the horse at its shoulder. We want to thank Anika and her horse Micky Finn for stepping up and being a couple of our test pilots here. So we're going to go through again. Walk, proceed down center line to X without halting. And this time we'll score the test. X to H, continue working walk along diagonal. Fairly straight on center line, some loss of rhythm, 5. H to C, continue working walk to C. Breaks to the trot on the diagonal, after 3. C, turn right on quarter line. Leg yield. Good rhythm in the turn, 5. B and F. Between B and F, circle right 20 meters. Could have had a little more stepping over in the leg yield, 4. Continue working walk to K. Better quality in the working walk here, but somewhat inconsistent. Breaking to trot again, 4. KXM, change rein, lengthening the horse's stride and allowing the horse to stretch forward and down. M to C, working walk. Not deep enough in the stretch, 3. Turn left on the quarter line. M to C, working walk, 5. Leg yield right to the rail between E and K. Between E and K, circle left 20 meters. Better rhythm in the leg yield, 5. Continue working walk to A. Loss of rhythm and connection on the circle, 3. A through C, 3 loop serpentine. HXF, change rein, lengthening the horse's stride and allowing the horse to stretch forward and down. Loss of rhythm and connection in the serpentine, 4. Better stretch this time, but loses some rhythm. F 4. To K, working walk. Better connection in the walk K here. K to X, proceed along diagonal
5.
To X. X, turn down center line.
Better rhythm on the diagonal, 5.
Between X and G, halt and salute.
Straight on the center line.
Stand quietly for a moment when you reward your horse. Take the reins over
6.
The horse's head, run up the stirrups, and leave the arena, leading the horse at its shoulder.
Good relaxation. Calm and obedient. Seven. Great job there by Anika. Once again, we want to thank her for stepping up and being one of our test riders. Now we're going to talk about the collective marks, why the test just plays on in the background there for us. And the collective marks, the first collective mark is the horse's correct level of development for the level entered. And I think we could say that this horse is pretty well conditioned for this, but not quite consistent enough. So we can see that he changes the frame fairly often throughout the test and doesn't keep it consistent. But I think he's strong enough to do this, but that's a little bit of harmony between horse and rider there, but I think he's well connected. So we're going to say 5 there as far as sufficiency go on the collective mark for horse's level of physical development. So in other words, it's sufficient. The horse could develop more. We'd like to see more top line ultimately. So we're going to give it a 5 mark there. Harmony between horse and rider. There's no glaring. The horse is quite willing to do what she asks the horse to do. There's never any glaring disobediences or arguments between the two of them. But at the same time, there are moments where the rider's hands are too high and she has to be a little more coercive than we would like to see. So we're going to give her a 5 there as well. But I love the fact that there's not really any resistance in the horse. So that makes that step up quite a bit. The next collective mark is the rider's correct level of physical development for the level entered. This would include the rider's seats and correct use of the aids. And I think this rider is quite well. Her position looks quite good when she's sitting, when she gets her shoulders lifted and back and her legs down underneath her. Once in a while, her legs get a little bit far out in front of her. Her hands get a little bit too wide and high sometimes. But nothing that's very glaring, if you will. So we're going to give her a 5 on that as well. Could she develop more? Yes, of course. So, but she's well developed enough to be able to do what she is trying to do there with some room for improvement. So think of 5 as kind of being a level of sufficient. You're sufficient for the level, but with room for improvement. Artistic impression is the last of our collective marks, and that's a coefficient of 2. Remember that that's mostly affected by things that take away our focus from the ride. In other words, when we see a really good artistic ride, we get lost in it. We don't sit there and think about the riders moving their hands too much, the legs are too much movement, or the horse is not enjoying it. You know, it should be, you know, in order to score really high the artistic impression, That's like a ballet dancer. You know, we don't see all the work that went in. They come out and they perform, and everything goes well. And that's what we'd like to see here. So and remember that the artistic impression is also a coefficient of 2. So I think there's a lot of room for growth here in this. And remembering that it's a coefficient of 2, we're going to give her a 3 on this. She's on her way, but there's a lot of room to improve in terms of finding that sort of seamless performance, if you will. So 3 on there. So once again, I want to thank Anika for all her hard work here and stepping up and being willing to put herself out there. She's done a great job. Things to think about that we're looking for. Now remember, in our scoring system, in all of the movements, the horse has to be sufficiently moving over its back to score the first movement. In other words, a hollow horse is not in a working gait. This horse is in a good working walk most of the time. If we look at the horse, we see how, you know, the underside of the neck muscles are relaxed. We see the top line lighting up across the top of the neck. The horse isn't forced into a frame. Now, could the horse be lifting up through its back a little bit more and give us more of that sense of consistency? And that's where we talk about that rhythm coming, you know, when it gets really seamless. And the horse could be stepping up and lifting up in her back in the walk a little bit more than she's doing in order to score a really high mark there. But she's well on her way. In other words, this horse isn't getting zeros on anything because the horse is never completely hollow. Once again, the horse is in a working walk. Remember that working gaits mean working over the back. So this horse is sufficiently working over its back for this level of competition that she doesn't score any zeros anywhere, meaning that she's not in a working walk at all, which is why it's so important that we score this way to avoid the confusion that led to the dressage world being in the mess that it's in today, whereas no one really being able to agree on what it even is. So anyway, once again, really great job here. I look forward to seeing more of your tests coming in. Great job on Anika with her horse, Micky Finn. Thank you so much. Hope you guys are all enjoying this process, and I look forward to seeing all of your videos in here pretty soon. Now, I've taken the time to score this for its percentage mark, as you would do in a horse show, and this would have scored 41.81% of the test. So we can see how important it is, the consistency of the rhythm. Now that may seem a little low. People have gotten used to these very, very high scores that we're seeing in the USDF these days, where people are scoring, you know, way up into the 90s for hollow-backed horses. So people have to get used to this idea that these scores are not going to be as enormous as they have recently been, and how forgiving, because that's what's led to the degradation of the sport. So once again, that would have been a 48. But once again, if this horse when the horse gets to the point where it's consistent at those moments when I said the walk was really nice and you see the frame really consistent, this horse would easily be scoring in the 60s and 70% if all of that had been consistent. So once again, thanks again to Anika and Micky Finn for doing a great job here today. I hope that helps everybody. See you all soon.